Welcome to Tycoons of Small Biz, a podcast where small business owners are celebrated as the backbone of the American economy. Each week, we introduce you to tycoons who share their stories and advice so that small business owners may learn from their experiences. Tycoons is powered by Backbone Planning Partners and Pivotal Advisors. Join us now as our hosts connect you to today's tycoons.
Good afternoon, Tycoons, and welcome to this week's episode of Tycoons of Small Biz. I'm happy to have you here, and just a quick little background on Tycoons of Small Biz. We coming into the first quarter of next year, we will be pushing 3 years. We started Cinco de Mayo of 2020 and have recorded an episode essentially every week since then. So I think we're 130, 135-ish episodes in, and honestly been loving every second of it. So today you are stuck with a watered down version of your regular host, Austin. So you got Landon again today. I was with you a couple weeks ago, excited to be back with you again. And our thoughts are out to Austin. He's pretty sick right now, so he's kind of taking the day to lay low, and hopefully he'll be on the mend coming into the weekend and the holiday. So we started Tycoons for a couple of reasons, but we started it primarily because we wanted to provide a platform for small businesses, mostly Main Street, businesses, and depending on what Google, result you find, that's going to be typically businesses that are doing less than, call it, $10 to $20 million of revenue. And we wanted to provide a platform to prop them up, to support them, to, give them some exposure, all the good stuff that comes with that. The show is put on by small business owners for small business owners, and we do our best to make this experience meaningful and to get the word out on small businesses. And today is absolutely no exception. I was explaining to our guest today, Scott, that my favorite conversations are the ones when I kind of get plugged in at the last second, because I don't have a lot of time to do planning, to dig around on their websites, to read all the stuff about them. So I get to ask them about it, and that typically leads to just really productive conversations. So without further ado, today we've got a tycoon on the show, Scott Crossen. Scott is the founder and the CEO of digmypics.com. So Scott, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Landon.
Happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited for the conversation. And another kind of interesting thing to mention is that, Austin and Scott are in a Vistage group together. And I don't know how long you guys have been in the group, together, but I know you're in the group. I'm also in a Vistage group out in Las Vegas. So I definitely want to kind of unpack that a bit and just kind of understand what you've learned and gleaned, from your experience in Vistage. But I think we'll kind of get there. So Scott, before we jump into what digmypics.com actually does and what the business, looks and feels like today, let's talk about Scott for a couple minutes. So give us a little story of your background, where you grew up, your family, your education, what you did as a youth, and anything that's important to you about your life growing up. We'd love to hear a little bit about you.
Okay, yeah, because I love talking about myself. So let's say I grew up in Ohio. I went to school at Ohio University, studied computer science, also got a bachelor's degree in Spanish. I just had a roommate from Colombia, so I ended up spending a summer with him. And then 2 more summers, I did an internship there with Occidental Petroleum, writing software. So I just ended up getting a software degree and learning Spanish along the way. From there, I moved to Boston. I met my wife there. We had 3 kids. We had 2 kids. She had 1 already. It was 5, Eric. And then we moved to Phoenix. We put our house on the market just before 9/11 happened. So we ended up moving here in 2002. So we've been here. I love Phoenix. Phoenix is incredible. I love all the stuff you can do here. Like I'm a mountain biker, dirt bike rider. Like I like adventure stuff. So there's all that stuff here. There's incredible mountain riding right by my house. I don't even have to load up my bike to ride. I can just ride right out my garage into the mountains. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Boring software guy who also rides mountain bikes.
All right. Well, Austin and I are boring, financial guys that also love to mountain bike and dirt bike and stuff. And I don't know if you knew that about Austin, but yeah, he grew up a big kind of extreme sports guy like myself, dirt biking and snowboarding and mountain biking and, all that kind of stuff. And Austin's got a pretty killer, like rock crawler. I don't know if you've seen his little Toyota that he has. You've seen it?
No, I have not seen it.
Oh, you got to check it out, man. This thing's pretty bad. It's an old, I think it's like a 85. I believe it's a 4Runner. I don't think it's a Tacoma. It's a 4Runner, and it's got really cool rock climbing kind of focus lift on it and big tires. And you got to ask him about that video that he took about he rock crawled up this like really famous little rockway, and it's pretty intense. So and I for about the first 12 years of my life, if you asked me what I wanted to do when I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional dirt biker. I was just absolutely obsessed with dirt bikes growing up, and it took me about 4 years to convince my parents, but I finally got a Honda Mini Trail 50. And then I graduated to a Kawasaki KX60, and then I rode a CR80. And then as an adult, I had a CRF 450, and then I had some other bikes, but I haven't had a bike for many years. But I'm still, in my heart, I'm still an avid dirt biker. I just don't actually get to ride one anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's still fun. I have 4 of them now. I just collect them. I'm just too lazy to sell them, I think.
All right. So next time I'm out there, if we want to go for a dirt bike ride, you're telling me you've got some extras.
I absolutely do. That would be amazing.
That would be fun, man. That would be way fun. So, all right. So you were a software developer, and then I believe you were working for a company that does something similar to what you do now. So kind of give us that backstory.
Yeah, so the company that I met my wife at, we're divorced now. We've been divorced 10 years, but we still work together. Like we still have our business together. We still work together. She works with me every day. We're still friends. We still hang out. We still do stuff. But anyway, we worked together at this company called Data Translation. It did image processing equipment. So in the 80s, image processing was nothing like it is today. Just to try and get the simplest little thing to get a robot to find something, or there was all these really difficult algorithms to just find the most minute little defect in a part, or look for cell biology. But that was the equipment we were making, equipment to like detect and process images for basically science and medical. And then we moved to Arizona. We just decided our house appreciated a lot. Let's just take a different lifestyle because we were both working really hard, and we came to Arizona to start a business, and that wasn't better. It's not less work, I should say. But yeah, we started this business in our house, and it started out just like going to be a hobby business for my wife. But I don't know, there's this old UPS commercial where these 2 entrepreneurs put their website up and they start watching the traffic come through, and bam, 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 and then they're like overwhelmed. Like that sort of happened to us. Like, we were like, wow, people are going to actually mail us their photos. And before we knew it, we had 10 people working in our house. So we decided we needed to, and this happened in a very short period of time. So we decided to, maybe we needed to get an office. We got an office. Within 6 months, we expanded that office to twice its size. And then within, 6 months of that, we ended up buying a great big building. So that's kind of how we sort of grew Dig My Pics. It grew very fast. So we bought this building in 2007. and it's 18,000 square foot building where we moved the business into. And 6 months later, a fire happened and it burned the business to the ground. Uh, so, that was a pretty tough thing to go through. It just completely destroyed the business, not the business, but the building. Um, so we went through that experience. That was probably the most difficult thing that you've ever had to go through. But we worked through it. We rebuilt the building. We spent almost a year trying to recover everything that was in the building. We had this advantage that, when an order comes in, we put it in these plastic bins and we zip tie it. So every order is separated in these little bins, and those things just melted into the cocoon. It just protected a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
We we ended up recovering over 90% of what we had. But it took us a year of going through that. That was probably the most challenging thing that a business can go through, is just being burned to the ground. That fire, of course, when a fire happens, the first thing everyone thinks is the owner did it for the insurance money. So that is not a fun experience to go through, because everyone is just judging you. And even the fire investigators, like for me, I'm like, I want to get this fixed. I want to help them figure out what happened, and they're just like, go away, stand back. But they finally figured out exactly what the cause was, and then they were friendly.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a lithium-ion battery in a laptop.
Interesting. And that caught the entire building on fire.
It caught the entire building. It had a wood roof. So once the fire ignited the cubicle that it was in, it just hit the roof and then just took the entire building down. It was at the time the largest fire in Gilbert history.
Wow. That's yeah, that's incredible, man. I mean, not in a good way, of course, but I mean, when you talk about a business being, burnt to the ground, it's usually that's metaphoric, but this is literal. I mean, your business literally burned down to the ground, man. I hope nobody was
No,
injured or
nobody was hurt.
yeah.
And that story actually has a happy ending, because we host our website at the office. So, that of course went offline. Like our website immediately went offline, and, customers that we had were kind of in a panic,
Mhm.
on this business. But I immediately put up a blog and just was incredibly transparent. Everything that happened, I just put it on the website. Like, this is a daily blog, like everything our employees were doing, pictures of everything that was happening. Um, it ended up being kind of great. Like, customers were getting really involved in what was happening at our business and how we were going through this recovery. Um, when it was all over, one customer actually said, "I'm sad it's over. Like, I've been watching this. I feel like I know you all." So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
it took us almost a year to recover from that.
yeah, wow. I can yeah, I think most of us can say that we can't even imagine going through something like that. That's intense, man. But just I want to circle back on a comment that you made, because that's pretty glaring. You started the business, and within like 6 months, you've already got 10 employees. And a vast majority of businesses don't ever make it to 10 employees, let alone in 6 months. So why do you think the business grew like so rapidly in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, I don't know if it happened within 6 months. I don't specifically remember the time frame, but it was fast. Um, I mean, I don't know. There was a demand for this service. This was all the way back in 2002. Yeah, 2002. So, um, yeah, I mean, we just put up a website. I thought it would be like a little small business for my wife to do. Well, but yeah, people just started sending us stuff, and like, well, maybe there's something here. And so we just started to put more effort into it. And pretty soon, we were both working full time at that. And yeah, it was fun. It's fun to grow a business when everything is happening, and you have to figure out how to get all this done. And yeah, growth is it's stressful, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I highly recommend that part of the business,
Right.
the growing part.
Right. So tell us about digmypics.com. So what what do you guys do? What services do you offer? Give us an idea of that.
Yeah, so it's relatively simple on the face of it. Like, you have this box of photos in your house, your parents' house, old slides, old 8 millimeter film, videotapes, prints, negatives, like just this huge collection of old photos that nobody ever looks at anymore because it's too hard to pull them out. We take all that and we just digitize it and put it online so you can have it on your phone, you can have it on your computer, you can share it on Facebook. Like you can use those photos again. So that's what we do. It's pretty simple on the face of it. Making all of that work in a way that's profitable is incredibly difficult because it's so labor intensive. Um, so that's the edge that we have. Like my ability to write software, it has enabled our business to do some things that our competitors just can't match. And it's allowed us to keep our prices low.
Yeah, interesting. So let's pull on that thread for just a second. Like, help us understand why. Like, why is it so labor intensive? And then tell us a little bit about the software that you've developed to help kind of combat that.
Sure. So if you've probably everybody's probably scanned a photo before. Like you put it on the flatbed and you just wait. Like you put it there, you press a button, and you wait. So that's a very slow process. And then we also do slides, a lot of slides. Like we do incredible numbers of slides. And the a slide for younger listeners is it's a piece of film inside of a cardboard or plastic mount that makes it 2 inches by 2 inches. And the piece of film is a 35 millimeter film generally. So that's about 1 inch by 1.5 inches inside this 2x2 cardboard or plastic mount. And it used to go into a projector. So you put it in this a carousel or a tray, and one by one they would drop in front of a lamp and shine onto a projector. And if you were unlucky enough to grow up with a dad who was into photography, you had to sit and watch these slideshows. But yeah, we digitize all that. And the machinery to do that is incredibly slow. So over the last all throughout our history, like we've found ways to mechanize stuff, like mechanizing the production of the DVDs, a little robot to do that. And recently we built our own slide scanner with all the mechanisms and electronics to move the slides in front of the sensor to capture the image. We recently just developed our own technology to remove dust and scratches because this is a huge problem with film. It's like a magnet for dust. Like no matter how hard you try, it just dust just sticks to it. And it's a constant battle. It's been the bane of photographers since the beginning of photography. Dust is horrible. And on a piece of film, when you blow it up, this tiny little speck looks enormous.
Mm-hmm.
So we developed our own artificial intelligence to find dust and scratches almost the same way a human does. Find the little piece of dust and scratch and then paint it in. So yeah, we've just developed a lot of technologies. No other competitor has this technology to do this dust and scratch removal. A lot of them just, they just scan the film and you get it with the dust.
Have they approached you over the years and said, hey, let us, buy this from you or license this from you or, something like that?
I don't know how much I can talk about that, but we did license the software, not this dust and scratch software, but other software that we use to manage our process. We did license that to a company.
Yeah, interesting. So I was born in '84, and so I went. I was an '80s and early '90s baby in elementary school, and I remember those the projectors where you put the paper size piece, the transparent slide on the projector, and then it puts it up on the wall, and you could always remember like the little pieces of dust that would land on there, because they, like you said, they get magnetized and they look like they're the size of a dime or like a quarter, and it's a little speck of dust, and the teachers were constantly having to spray their little spray on the sheets and wipe them off. So yeah, if anybody is, younger than me that's listening, they may not even remember that. But
yeah, dust is a huge problem.
yeah, right. So all right. So when did the fire happen? What year was that?
It was 2008.
Okay. So
It's
here
been
we
a while.
are 14 years later.
Yeah.
Tell us about the evolution of the business, like in the last 14 years, since you went through that, obviously, incredible challenge, you persevered. Obviously the business, did fine because you're still here 14 years later. So yeah, just talk to us about that for a couple minutes.
Yeah. So, I mean, after the fire, like we still had people sending us pictures, like the people who had their stuff in the photos were continue to send us photos. Um, that's how impressed, I guess, they were with the way we handled that situation. Um, we had we had one customer that did lose their negatives in the photo, and he was so worried. Like he had called me the day before, he sent everything. He's like, he found my phone number, my personal cell phone number somewhere, and he called me. He says, if anything happens to these negatives, it'll be the end of my marriage, and I'm doing this for my anniversary. Um, and you know those negatives arrived at our building the day before the fire, and we never found them, but um, he sent us later the prints, and he said, thank you guys for all the time and everything. We're sending the prints from those things, and my wife and I decided that we'll have no more negatives in our life. That was kind of a good story.
Yeah.
So then, we rebuilt the building. Our insurance company was incredible, by the way. I didn't know anything about insurance before all this happened. It was our first commercial property. We bought the commercial property. So, we're learning about how that all works. And, we had an insurance agent, and he just talked to us about how to, what we needed for insurance. And it was very expensive. And I was like, dude, this is a lot of money for this insurance. He's like, I was like, what can we cut out? And he's like, you can't cut anything out. You need to have all of this. And I was, I guess, too tired from everything that was going on to fight with him. And fortunately, we had that insurance. One thing that I will tell you about, when the fire happened, there are these people called insurance adjusters. I don't. They're like ambulance chasers. They showed up. They hounded us so hard to get us to sign a contract to represent us against the insurance company. And if I had signed that contract, I probably wouldn't be here today. Like they basically entitle themselves to take 30% of your money, and they tell you the insurance company is going to cheat you, but I don't know. In my experience, I told them to just go away, and I dealt with the insurance company, and the insurance company was incredible. And they were so helpful. I don't know if any of your listeners ever have this disaster happen to them, just try to work with your insurance company first. Mine was incredible. They were so helpful. That was American Family Insurance, by the way. I'm not trying to make a plug for them or anything, but they really treated us well. But yeah, if we had to give up 30% of our settlement, I don't know, we wouldn't have been able to do all the things we were able to do. So anyway, I'm not going to get on my soapbox about insurance, but that was the one thing that was unexpectedly learned about how, I don't know, sleazy that part of that business is. So anyway, we continued to build we rebuilt the building completely. So we're still in that building today. Yeah. Here's another weird thing I learned. The building didn't have sprinkler system, and the building wasn't that old. So, it was our first time to buy a commercial property. So I don't know, it wasn't that old of a building. Like it never occurred to me that like a sprinkler system would just be a common thing. Like they've been around for 150 years probably. But for whatever reason, it wasn't code in Gilbert at the time that building was built, so they didn't do it. It has a sprinkler system now, by the way. Now you can't build a building without a sprinkler system, but I thought that was a weird thing. Like just the random things that you learn as you're going through the process that you never expect. So anyway, we rebuilt the building. We got this beautiful, basically new building because the previous building was completely destroyed. Um, yeah, we just went through and just rebuilt the business from the ground up. It gave us an opportunity to like rethink some of our processes, and um, it was actually fun rebuilding. The rebuilding part was kind of fun. Um, so yeah, growth is fun.
So talk to us about, like, other than a literal fire, you know, what's maybe one or two of the other biggest challenges that you have faced as your business grew really quickly, and then you know, I don't know what's happened since, you know, the fire, and since the rebuilding of the business. I don't know what's happened as far as the production has gone in the business, but like, what's one or two of the biggest, you know, setbacks or challenges that you've kind of, you know, faced?
Yeah, I think you know, in 2007, I think we got reviewed by Money Magazine, and they gave us a bad review, and they gave a good review to a very new upstart competitor. Um, and you know that magazine review hurt us a lot, and it wasn't fair. But there's not much you can do about it. You know, they they sent us pictures of a band playing in a bar, which, as you can imagine, are terrible to begin with. Like, if you've ever seen these old prints from the 80s taken inside of a bar, um, they sent this competitor, who they raved about how great the pictures were, sunny pictures of a picnic outside in a park. So, you know, that not only did they not send the same pictures to all of the competitors to test them with, they sent us really lousy ones and sent. So I don't know. The review was unfair, but we've been stuck with it. Like we were stuck with that review. In fact, that company still advertises about this magazine article from 2007. Um, so yeah, just bad luck of a review. I mean, but we've since gotten great reviews from other newspapers and magazines. The New York Times, Consumer Reports just last month, you know, did a whole 2-page spread about us. So, you know, we still get good press, but that stuff, like, can really get to you. Like, well, there's nothing you can do. Sometimes you don't even know these things are coming out, so you can't even, you know, head them off at the pass, and they just hurt you, and oftentimes unjustly. So yeah, getting a bad review is probably one of the hardest things we had to go through besides the fire. Um, yeah, I mean, dealing with competition is always hard. It's surprising how vile sometimes it can get. Um, we're going through a problem right now where a competitor, they they just threaten to sue anybody who tries to compete with them directly. Uh, and you know, a lot of the companies in our space are relatively small, so no one wants to spend money on lawyers. Um, so it's effective. Like, it's, if you threaten legal action, your competitor will usually just back down rather than. But this one threatened legal action to stop us from competing with them, and I said, no, I'm gonna fight you. So going through that process, which is not fun. Um, but yeah, it's just they're sideshows. Um, One of the good things about having our business was, you know, it allowed us to spend time with our family. Like, we got to be there to raise our kids. Even though we were working hard, we could just kind of choose when we had to be around. And so I would say, like, we had a good experience raising our family. Um, you know, the other thing that happened in 2018, we lost a son, our oldest son, in an ATV accident, and that happened in Massachusetts. So we spent a month. We were a whole month at the hospital, basically. So we were able to be all together as a family for that. And fortunately, like, things were calm at the business during that period. So that was a rough year. Um, but yeah, sorry. Change
Yeah.
the subject for me. Help me out,
Yeah.
Landon.
Yeah. No, I got you, man. That's wow. Um, yeah, that's incredibly sad, and I'm really sorry to hear that, man. Let's take a quick pause here, and we will hear a call to action. And then on the flip side, I want to talk about, you made a really interesting comment about the shelf life of a business like this. So I want to unpack that with you and understand what your thoughts are on that. So we'll just fall still here for just a minute.
Hey there, Tycoons. Austin Peterson here, co-host of Tycoons of Small Biz. If you think you have what it takes to be considered a tycoon and you're wondering how you could become a featured guest, please follow and then message us at Tycoons of Small Biz on LinkedIn. We'd love to have a conversation with you to see if it is a mutually good fit, and if so, we'll get you scheduled for an interview. If you're unsure about being a guest on our podcast, but are contemplating selling your business over the next few years and you'd like to know what your business is worth, please also follow us and then message us on LinkedIn for your no obligation, informal valuation of your business. We look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for listening to the Tycoons of Small Biz podcast. And now, back to today's program.
All right, welcome back, Tycoons. All right, so Scott, you mentioned competition now a couple of times. You said a lot of the players in your space are relatively smaller, companies. Sounds like there's probably a couple big players, kind of bullies in the space, if you will, a bit. But how competitive is the industry that you're in?
It's becoming less competitive. When we first started the business, there were dozens of companies like us. The challenge, obviously is to make money in this business that's highly labor intensive. So I think it ends up chasing a lot of people away. I think the one thing that people don't expect when they start a business is how expensive it is to acquire a customer. Customer acquisition costs are enormous. We spend a lot of money on pay-per-click. Like all of our business basically comes from pay-per-click, and that's, if for people who don't know, when you open up Google and you type in something you want to buy or something you're interested in, there's ads at the top of the page and along the side, and they look like just regular links, and you just click them. Somebody's paying, from $3 to $50 for that click. So that gets, as you can imagine, it gets very expensive when people are just clicking, like without even thinking about it. Like but a lot of people don't realize how expensive those clicks are. There's two kinds of clicks on a search page. For people who don't know, there's sponsored links, which are the ones that we pay for, businesses like us pay for, and then there's this other stuff below it, usually called organic, which is just what Google finds when it crawls websites and lists them as they see fit. Those ones don't cost anybody any money. You click on those. Those are free for whoever the site goes to. But the sponsored ones, which most people click on because Google is very clever about how they position it just for people to click on. Those cost quite a lot of money. So I think you have to count on 20 to 50% of your revenue is going to go to some kind of customer acquisition, whether it's television advertising, radio advertising, newspaper. It's incredible how much it costs to just get a customer to come to your door. The idea is you're going to start a business, you'll build it, and they will come. It's not as easy as it sounds.
I know a thing or two about that, my friend. Our customer acquisition costs can be, can easily be somewhere between $500 and $1,500. So, we definitely feel you there. Now, the lifetime value of, of a client is significant in our line of work. But, when you look at the number of new clients that you acquire based on, your advertising and marketing dollars that you spend, the costs can easily be, four figures. So, definitely hear you there. I thought it was really interesting, that just for context, for anybody listening that has not been a guest, what we do is we send out a guest form to our guests way ahead of time and say, hey, give us some information about yourself and the business and, website and all that kind of stuff. And then we have a section that says that list 5 to 7 questions or topics that you want us to ask you about. And we use that to kind of guide our conversations. And I thought it was super interesting when I saw one of the points that you listed, which is, what's the shelf life of a business like this? And I thought that was just really fascinating. And I don't know what the right word is, but just really fascinating and unique that you are thinking about your business in that lens, because that was one of the first things that I thought about when I read the description of your company. I'm like, man, is there really still a market for that? But obviously there is. But talk to us about that. Like, what do you think the shelf life of a business like yours is in the long run?
I thought it would be over in 2005. Yeah, but here's the thing: every family needs to do this, and most families have not. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I mean, at some point you have to decide what you do with this box of photos that's been sitting in the closet. You either just throw it in the dumpster or you get it digitized. And whether you send it to us or you do it yourself, that work has to get done or just discarded. Yeah, so I don't know what the shelf life is. We still grow, so I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, what are your thoughts? So I can tell you that in the last 3 to 5 years, we've gotten photos done multiple times with my family, multiple times in our business. And, I can tell you that there's never been a printed photo. It's all a file that, it's a Google Doc, or I don't know, whatever file it is, but you click on the link and it's all the photos are populated on that, it's all on the cloud or it's all digital. So, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, you're young, like you've probably only known digital, but your parents and your grandparents have a box of photos somewhere that somebody's gonna have to deal with at some point. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know when all that stuff is finally digitized. I don't know when that is. Is it 10 years from now? Is it next year? It's probably not next year. It probably isn't even 10 years from now. Like, that stuff is just gonna be sitting around for, I don't know, 50 years. I mean, I don't imagine our business will still be around in 50 years, but I don't know.
Right.
I mean, like I said, we still grow, so people are still getting this done. Videotapes right now is a growing segment for us.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience and also from having conversations with other people my age, because my generation and people around my age group, all of our parents now are in their 60s and 70s. And so there's been a trend where, for one reason or another, our parents are doing exactly what you're just describing, where they've got these old boxes of photos and they don't know what to do with them. And so they just assume that their kids want them. And so I had my dad ship me like 5 boxes, like banker boxes full of like old photos. And it was totally unsolicited. So they like showed up at my house and I was like, what in the heck do you want me to do with these? And, rather than do a quick, Google search and maybe find, digmypics.com, I just sent out a text message to my siblings and it was like, I'm not keeping all this stuff, so do you guys want some of it? Cool. If you do, if you don't, I'm just going to toss them. And so I ended up throwing away, probably 4 or 5 bankers boxes full of these old photos. And I certainly went through and picked out some ones that I wanted to keep that had meaning to me, but it didn't even cross my mind to look into getting them all digitized. And knowing what I know now, I would have absolutely reached out to you, because that would have been really cool to just have them on in a folder somewhere stored on my computer. So I can tell you though that I've had other conversations with people around my age, and they are experiencing that same kind of stuff from their parents as well.
Yeah, it's going to be going on for a while. One of the cool things about technology now is you put those photos in the cloud and face recognition can find. So you can search across all of these photos and find who the people are. Um, and it's getting better. The artificial intelligence stuff with image processing is amazing today. Like it's hard to even wrap your head around how good it has gotten in just the last 3 years. I worked in image processing since the 80s. So it's stuff we only dreamed of being able to do back in the 80s. That you can just do it on your cell phone. So.
Right. Well, speaking of the last 3 years, I would imagine COVID was probably an accelerator for your business. Everybody's in the house and has time on their hands, and with the stimulus monies being handed out, people had a couple extra money in the bank. Did you see did that have a positive impact on your business the last couple of years?
Yes. Surprisingly, I mean, I can remember when the pandemic started, we're all thinking, this is going to be terrible. Everyone's just going to hibernate. No one's going to spend money. And the exact opposite happened to all of the businesses kind of in the .com space.
Mm-hmm.
The pendulum is swinging a little bit the other way right now, when suddenly everybody decided to stop shopping and go get experiences. So, we saw a slowdown during that period. But I don't know, it keeps ticking. But yeah, the pandemic, it was crazy. Like we grew a lot during the pandemic. So yeah.
How do you see your business evolving, like in the next 10 years? I know you said you don't foresee the business going anywhere anytime soon. Obviously, if you guys are continuing to sustain and grow every year, then obviously the market is telling you that there's still a need for what you do. But how would you imagine that your business would evolve, the next 10 years?
I mean, we're constantly inventing new technologies to make it easier for us to do what we do. Without, we have this standard that whatever we implement can't make anything worse than it was before. Like we aren't going to take a new technology just because it makes it cheaper but it diminishes the quality of the product we produce. So we have that baseline standard. Like nothing we do can diminish the quality. So we still have some things that we have to do by hand. Like we still do single photo by photo color correction. Like we still have a person, because we haven't found a technology to automate that at the level of a human person fixing the photo. So, there's some more technology I'm sure we can discover. Like we've just done we just invented this whole new slide scanning and film scanning mechanism that we're just have that like implemented fully, and it's working well. We recently implemented that dust and scratch technology that uses an artificial intelligence. So we're constantly innovating in those kinds of areas to just make the process better and faster, so we can keep our prices low. Like it's an incredibly price sensitive business. For someone, some people will say that their photos are priceless, but when you put a price on them, they have a limit.
Yeah, I can imagine. So on that note, give us an idea, like what does it cost to do the different stuff that you guys do? I mean, just approximately.
Yeah, $10 to $15 for a videotape, $15 for an 8mm reel is 3-inch reels, about 50 to 60 cents a photo.
Wow. Okay. So 50 to 60 cents a photo. So and by the way, what's your business look like today from a like an employee headcount?
We're just under 50.
Okay. So to support that kind of a business, I would imagine you guys are doing a lot of photos every year.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of photos.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot.
Is it tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions? I
Yeah,
don't know. I'm trying to do the math in my head, but it's got to be a lot.
yeah, it's millions.
Yeah, gotcha. So, all right. So, as we kind of come into the, the final stretch here, you've been an entrepreneur, you've been a business owner now for, you've got 2 decades, under your belt. So let's close with this. What just kind of general life and business advice would you give to somebody that's maybe a little bit earlier in their journey, or maybe they're thinking about starting a business, or they want to be an entrepreneur? What kind of advice would you give them?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. That's a very open-ended question, but I mean, having a business is exciting. So I recommend having a business. Just go in it knowing that it's harder than it looks, and it's going to cost a lot of money to get your customers. So go in and understanding, like, how am I going to get customers, and how much is that going to cost, so you can price whatever you're doing appropriately. If you look at Silicon Valley, when they feed venture money into, I don't know, the next scooter company or whatever, like the venture capitalists don't want to spend money on getting your scooter developed. They want to spend money on you getting customers. So a lot of that money, believe it or not, goes right into Facebook and Google. That's where you grow your business, is just getting people to find you. And then the idea is, like, you own the market. So if you're going to go smaller scale, like us, like a family kind of business, decide, you want to have a lifestyle business, or do you want to have like a high growth business? But for us, this family style business, like, we thought it would grow more than it did, but it ended up working out good that we had this kind of lifestyle business that we could grow and cultivate and have a good family life. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm rambling.
Yeah.
So help me out.
That's great, man. I mean, I've actually never really had somebody kind of respond in that way. And I think that's extremely important, because, there's sayings around, revenue is the cure for all, business problems. I would argue maybe it's a combination of revenue and profit, but certainly, sales, are the lifeblood of a company, right? Because without revenue, without monies coming in the door, then there is no business. And the latter part of that is, it also has to translate to profit. Some business guy that I follow has, he's like, businesses are in business to do 2 things primarily, and that is to make a profit and to generate cash. Obviously there's more to it than that, but I've always found that to be super interesting, because again, that is the cure to a lot of issues, right? Because the vast majority of small businesses, they fold because of cash flow issues, right? They just don't have a good strategy around cash flow, and some things happen, and all of a sudden they're out of cash, and they can't pay their rent, or they can't pay their employees, and they gotta go under. So I think that's a really interesting observation that you make, which is if you're gonna go into business, understand exactly what it costs to acquire a new customer.
Yeah, it's the biggest unexpected expense that people I don't think fully consider.
Yeah.
I think it's why we've lost so many competitors, because it just costs so much to get a new customer, especially for a relatively small dollar sale like we are.
Right. Yeah. So in a perfect world, I know you said you've got two remaining kids. One had passed away. For the 2 remaining kids, do they work with you in the business at all, or?
Yeah, my son my son Corey, he's an aeronautical engineer, but he does software programming now. So he helped me develop the AI that does the dust and scratch detection. He's now working for Viasat, so he just recently got hired over there. But yeah, he's a super smart kid. I enjoyed working with him, so that was fun. That was fun to have that experience. But now he's living his dream. Like he's always wanted to be in space, and he's super excited about this job. He's doing stuff with calculating when satellite antennas will, I don't know, maybe it's like when satellite antennas are going to like fall out of alignment. So he's trying to predict when that might happen so they can fix them. Kind of extremely nerdy stuff.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we'll let him, spread his wings and go out there and get the experience he needs, and then maybe you can lasso him back into the business, whenever you're getting closer to looking at the next chapter in your life. So, well, Scott, really enjoyed the conversation. Just before I ask you where people can track you down and stuff like that, just any closing thoughts or ideas that you want to share with our listeners before we wrap it up?
I probably said too much. No, it was a fun experience. I'm not used to talking about myself. I feel uncomfortable doing that. So, no, it was fun.
Well, yeah, you did a great job, man. We sure appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing some of the stuff that you've shared, because I can relate to some stuff, and I'm sure plenty of our listeners can as well. As we all have our own trials and tribulations in this short time that we're on this earth. So thank you for sharing all that, Scott.
Yeah,
if
sorry
people
if it was
want
all
to,
depressing. Like now I'm thinking back on it. Maybe I should have told more uplifting stories. No, like it's been a very uplifting experience. So I hope I didn't like portray everything as horrible.
not at all, man, not at all. So if people want to track you down individually, where's the best place for them to do that?
To like my cell phone number or
No, like if people wanted to connect with you, is it like LinkedIn, or what's the best way for people to connect with you digitally?
I do have a LinkedIn. It's Scott Crossen. I think it's just Scott Crossen. I've had it for like 25 years, so or however long LinkedIn's been a thing. So I think I got my whole name. I think I got in early enough to get my whole name. On Twitter, I'm Photoman05 with an F. Photoman05.
Okay, and then digmypics.com, is that the best place for people to track down the business?
S Crossen at digmypics.com.
Okay, and then the website though for the company is just digmypics.com.
Digmypics.com. Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, Scott, really appreciate the conversation today. You built a great business, and we look forward to following along with your continued success, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Landon. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You've been listening to Tycoons of Small Biz, a podcast for small business owners by small business owners. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Arizona time for an introduction to another great tycoon. And be sure to follow us on our social media channels for links to all of our episodes and great content.